What we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets.
Penetrate the cabinet. This guy's like so central casting Bond villain. It's unbelievable. That guy is, well, so he's no longer. He's still with us, but he's no longer the head of the World Economic Forum. And let's not get too excited. He's still there at the World Economic Forum. He's just not the head of it anymore. Anyway, always good to get an update on Klaus Schwab with Seamus Bruner, the author of this book right here, Control Oligarchs. And I don't know if you can see, once this fancy schmancy graphic goes away, as it slides through here, I don't know if you can see here all the marks I have in the book, all the corners folded. I don't know if you can see that. Seamus Bruner here. What's going on, Seamus? How are you?
Mike, great to be back with you. Thank you so much for showing the book there. Klaus Schwab on the cover. I guess I'll have to do another book with the new head of World Economic Forum.
Yeah, who's just as evil, but we'll get to him in a second. So one of your chapters, of course, so we got the big guys. We got Soros, we got Zuckerberg, Gates, Bezos, and Klaus. What do we need to know about Klaus? And what's he doing now?
Yeah, so Klaus Schwab has always been sort of the figurehead, the front man, the spokesperson for the global elite. A lot of people, you don't even know who they are, dictating the policies of your country, of our country here in America. But Klaus Schwab is the front man, and so he comes out of the shadows and announces some crazy new thing, like, let's say, the Great Reset during the pandemic. But he's really just announcing policies that were cooked up in the shadows years beforehand. And so in some ways, with him stepping back, he's going to still be the chairman of the board of trustees. So he's not really going anywhere, but it's really no change. I mean, the World Economic Forum is still going to be drafting these policies, working with organizations like the World Health Organization on pandemic treaties. A lot of the stuff that comes out of the UN and things like the Paris Climate Accords, those are all drafted and conceived at Davos. And so it's not a big change, but what the World Economic Forum says they're going to be doing, that's really what should alarm us.
Yeah, actually, kind of good for him for building an organization that's bigger than him, that can live on beyond. Unfortunately, it's an organization for bad, for evil, but he built it from nothing and made it. So congratulations. What is next on the World Economic Forum agenda?
Yeah, and I mean, his family, by the way, will still be heavily involved. He's got 2 kids. He's got a nephew. They're all on the World Economic Forum payroll. They're each as crazy as their father. And so the Schwabs are still in the mix. Olivier and Nicole Schwab are the children, and they're on steering committees and all that. And it's a huge payday for the Schwab family. But what's next for the World Economic Forum? So they are going to continue being the leading global institution for public-private partnerships. And that sounds sort of, benign and, what's going on with what's a public-private partnership anyway. And whenever you hear that word, you need red flags, sirens going off, because what a public-private partnership is when the corporations partner with the government. And so it's the worst of both worlds for us, the best of both worlds for them. For example, the government has all of the powers that a government has, the monopoly on the coercive use of force, but the corporations have all the benefits that the government lack, which is like total opaqueness in their movements, that corporations are able to hide behind things like intellectual property or proprietary work product so that we can't peer behind the curtain. For example, you can FOIA the emails of the government. You can't FOIA the emails of a corporation. And so let me give you just a couple examples of public-private partnerships in action. Big tech censorship. The government isn't allowed to infringe on your First Amendment rights, but the tech platforms, because they're a business, and the left always comes at you like, don't you support a business's right to choose who they do business with? Therefore, Facebook is allowed to censor you. All of the other big tech platforms are allowed to censor you. And the government can't censor you, but what they can do is shoot an email over to Facebook and say, hey, take these accounts offline. So that's an example of a public-private partnership. Another example is the pandemic response. The government isn't always able to completely lock you down and completely infringe on all of your basic human rights, but all of the businesses in partnership with the government said, well, unless you get the vaccine, you're not allowed to come to our restaurant. You're not allowed to work for our company. And all the left suddenly fell in love with corporations after hating them since forever and said, yeah, it's the business's right to force you to take the jab. And so that's another example. So these public-private partnerships, that's what the World Economic Forum is going to be focusing on. They said it, they admitted it, and that's what is really alarming for the future.
You made a statement there that's very fascinating and deserves further detail. In our lifetime, there was a balance between government and business to the point where, as you said, progressives hated business. But for the rest of us, that created a nice balance. We had the progressives over here in government and more conservative people in business. But something happened relatively recently, perhaps you know better than me, surely you do, where business now moved over to the left as well. And now we have no balance, us regular people. Speak to that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it's the wokeification. I mean, here's another public-private partnership. They have businesses coming in and giving DEI trainings to students and to teachers. And so ordinarily, parents would have a right to check out what's going on, what's in the curriculum. But now, because it's a private business, you're not allowed to look at their proprietary training materials. Same thing with software. They're putting kids in front of laptops that are basically, taking them on a journey of like, are you trans or are you just gay? And the parents want to see the software and what's under the hood. But the laptops are in the schools and the companies are saying, no, you can't look at the software because we're a private company and this is our work product. And so when did the corporations go woke? I mean, that's a great question. It's kind of been happening for 50, 60, 70 years. I mean, the World Economic Forum is the hub for where the largest corporations in the world, the Fortune 500 in the US, they are all with maybe a few handful of exceptions, they are all members of the World Economic Forum. And they find that they've gone left, they've gone woke because they get the awesome powers of the government. The left is the government party. And so this marriage between big business and big government has really blossomed into full-blown fascism, full-blown tyranny.
I think the moral of this story, unfortunately for today, is that Klaus Schwab no longer the head, the president of World Economic Forum, but he's still involved, and World Economic Forum's not going anywhere. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And what it is he's just the figurehead. So, I mean, these big businesses and people like Bill Gates and George Soros, they're not going anywhere either. They're really driving the ship. I mean, he's not the total brains behind the operation. I mean, a figurehead or a spokesperson, he kind of just comes out. They chose a terrible spokesperson because, like you said, central casting for Bond villain. But the new guy, Borge Brenda, who's running the day-to-day, he's the former so-called conservative. Don't let the European version of the word conservative fool you. He's from Norway. He's a total lefty, big donor to the Clinton Foundation. He's on the board of various globalist organizations like the United Nations or the Bilderberger conferences. And so this guy is going to be no better than Klaus Schwab. But you do see the mainstream media saying he's a conservative. So they're at least trying to give a little lip service, but you can't fall for it.